So 5 years ago, you don't speak English. You're working Uber Eats and dishwashing and moving to Denmark with your girlfriend to chase opportunity.
I had two things in my plans. One was to learn e-commerce or do something to work remotely and make money while traveling. And the other part was to master engraving.
You are 8 million last year. You're going to more than triple this year to 25 million.
If I were to consolidate in one idea, I think it is like dreaming so big that you feel you're being delusional, but then slowly you kind of move that threshold. Just imagine 36 million and think like, what should I do to the 36? I had so many mentorships that changed my brand and my life. I find topics I need to get better at depending on the season. For example, right now we are rebranding. So I try to find resources to learn rebranding. I search like a rebranding mentor and start looking at that. And then I spend money on that and it's just easy. Solves all my problems and unlocks like a next level quickly.
How's Argentina doing? Because like Argentina, I think I mentioned this to you in New Orleans. It's one of my all-time favorite countries. Spent some time traveling there. Like we took a bus overland from Ushuaia up to like Mendoza and Patagonia and then over to Buenos Aires. And I love Argentina, amazing country. But I also know like, man, it's kind of a crazy time. You've got a new president, austerity measures, high inflation. So I'm just curious, like you never know unless you talk to someone who's been on the ground recently. How's the country doing? Like what's the morale like? How are people doing?
So there's like a duality of what's happening. So in one side, you see economically, the country is doing better, way better in terms of like micro terms, like inflation is going a lot down. It was around 25 to 30% every month before the new president took over. And now it's down to like 6% every month. So it's been great, but at the same time, that's hitting us because we have a lot of people from Argentina and we have a lot of expenses there. So like prices in US dollars are going up. In the past, it was super cheap to go to Argentina, eat some like huge steak and go to dinner every night. And it was only $10, maybe $20 for the fanciest restaurant. And now it's like catching up to international prices. So maybe having dinner in Argentina is closer to what's like to have dinner in maybe Mexico or other countries near in the region.
Man, did he do? How did he get inflation under control? Did he just stop spending so much? What did he do to try to tame that beast?
I'm not really into politics a lot because I don't use social media at all. Like I don't use Instagram, Twitter. I don't know like almost anything, but as far as I know, they should stop printing money. That was kind of the first like big measure they took. And then they cut down on a lot of expenses, like public expenses that were, they stopped printing money. And how do they manage the country without all the money they were printing? They just cut down expenses, increase some like mostly got subsidized. I don't know how.
Oh, subsidies.
Yeah, subsidies. So in Argentina, you can have an office and like maybe let's say like 400 square meters and pay only $50 a month of like all the utility bills together combined, like electricity and water, gas, like all the other bills combined. And the countries in the region are like maybe $600 for the same thing. So it was not realistic. And now they just cut the subsidies and it just, I don't know. I guess they save a lot of money that way. But I'm speaking about something that I know. So like the thing I can tell is that Argentina is a wonderful country. There's a lot of talent in Argentina and people is very smart and they have this kind of intelligence where they know how to figure out ways to solve problems. And because they have been doing that since they were born and their families had to do that. And all the business founders in Argentina have been through like a lot of collapses. And it's not like the US crack, like the market crashes only 2 years. It's like every 3-4 years, the government changes and they change all the policies. And if you had a company that was relying on imports, then suddenly government changed, they cancel all the imports. You cannot import, you cannot sell. So then you go out of business. And then you maybe, if you're an entrepreneur, you build a factory, you start producing in Argentina because the labor is cheap and so on. And then new government comes in, they open completely imports without any taxes and duties. And then the local manufacturing just go out of business and they switch to like an importer. And that just keeps going on and on. And like people get out of that being very smart and resilient. At the same time, so like that's one side. And then the other side is like education and hope in the lower class is going down and down and down. They just, at some point, they don't believe they can get out of that, and they don't want to do anything about it. And education goes down and culture goes down. And that's just happening all around the world, I guess. But in Argentina, it's extreme. And yeah, besides that, I don't know. I've been in Uruguay, so I'm happy, like just experiencing a new country and knowing like that I'm kind of in the same place, because Argentina and Uruguay are very similar, but at the same time, it's just like a completely different, more respectful and polite culture. Got
it. Man, well, glad the move went smoothly and you're all set up. And because, man, moving internationally, moving in general is awful. It makes you want to just take everything you own and dump it into a pile and light it on fire. But internationally is a totally different story. I want to get it. Normally, I am not a big backstory person on the podcast. Like, I know a lot of times people love diving into backstories, and I'm usually not. That's not something we focus on a lot here. But I feel like yours is so different and so interesting and unique. I want to get into it a little bit before we dive in. So, I mean, you've been in business for 3 or 4 years. You did $8.5 million last year. Did like 25. You're projecting $25 million this year. I'd love to kind of go back. Give me your arc of your story, because it involves drop shipping. It involves moving to another country to just kind of hustle and learn. In Europe, I think in Scandinavia. Anyway, if you could give just the broad, just arc of your story from when you started in e-commerce to where you are now, or maybe even before, maybe when if moving to Europe was before that, I'd love to hear it.
Sure. So I think it all begins with me. I love inventing things and solving problems. And at some point, my father was a goldsmith, so I opened an online jewelry store in Argentina. And it was a small thing. And I was watching this YouTuber that was saying like, oh, you need to get out of your 2 blocks. And that concept of like getting out of your comfort zone, selling into more than your 2 blocks around your town or something. So I started like experimenting into some marketplaces in Argentina, like Mercado Libre. It's like an Amazon in Argentina. So did kind of well, but I saved the money to go to Scandinavia and make more money. That was the plan, just to make more money. Went to Scandinavia, and I wanted to be a goldsmith, but I got to interrupt. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you so early. Why did you decide to move to Scandinavia to make more money? You're in Argentina. Like, what was it about Scandinavia that made you think this is a place I can learn and make money? My girlfriend at the time, she didn't have a visa or a passport. So there were only a few places where she can go legally to work. And Denmark was one of them. And it was said to be like easy to get in. People spoke English kind of like in a fluent way. We didn't speak English, by the way. So I didn't speak any English at the time. So I had to learn English, move to Denmark. With all the money I saved, I sold all the jewelry company. And it was not a company. It was just like an online shop in my town. But I was selling online and doing some deals and sold that, went to Denmark, and started making money as a dishwasher. And that was my first job was actually delivering newspapers. And then I started dishwashing and delivering food like Uber Eats in a bicycle. And what year is this? That's 2019. Okay. So 5 years ago, you don't speak English. Yeah. 5 years ago, you're working Uber Eats and dishwashing and moving to Denmark with your girlfriend to chase opportunity. That's awesome. Yeah. And I was learning English through listening like podcasts and things while I was washing dishes. And in my plans, I had 2 things in my plans. One was to learn e-commerce or do something to work remotely and make money while traveling. And the other part was to master engraving, because there's a thing in jewelry, like engraving is a pain, and like you need to find a good engraver, and it's difficult to learn. So I toggled my tools and wanted to learn engraving in Denmark. I actually didn't do anything about engraving in Denmark because it was so tough to learn that without like a workshop. But that stuck with me. And then like fast forward a couple of months, tried to do drop shipping to make money online. And my girlfriend was running out of time for her visa. So we needed to either go to another country or we will break up. So in the plans, we were planning to break up because I wanted to stay in Denmark, making more money to sustain my business that I was trying to start. I didn't have anything. But I was selling jewelry online, learning engraving, learning drop shipping, and also making ice cream in an ice cream factory place, in Denmark. And then I became a manager. Everything that happened in 6 months. I was learning Danish at the same time. So I was so confused, waking up at 5 a.m. every day and going to sleep so tired at 11:30 every single day, not doing anything besides work and learning. And I'm being with my girlfriend, but she was supporting me. So COVID hits and the shopping center where I was working said we got to close. And I went back home and said okay, now I probably should get a mentor. And because I was reading the 5 a.m. Club and they were talking about mentors, and I was reading a couple of other books, and I was yeah, I'll get a mentor. I had some interviews, found the mentor. He was a drop shipper, and he basically scammed me because he was not making any money drop shipping. But I took his course and learned a lot of useful things that I already took some courses before. But he was mentoring me in a way. He was lying to me in a way that I believed what he said, and I made it work. And it suddenly worked, and I started selling fitness products. And I didn't like the dropshipping model. So after 3 months of that, I closed it down and built a brand around woodworking. And that's the beginning of my brand. And that's 2020, end of 2020, beginning of 2021.
That's amazing, man. I think, just for the record, your English, for having spoken it less than 5 years, is phenomenal. In general, it's really good, but especially for not having spoken for more than 5 years. So really well done, man.
Thank you.
So you came back to Argentina, run the business for a little bit. And how, you are, like I mentioned earlier, 8 million last year. You're going to almost triple. You're going to more than triple this year to 25 million. What is driving growth for you? I mean, growth is something I think that right now is a huge issue for so many people. It's a hard time to get attention. It's a hard time to scale profitably. What does your marketing playbook look like?
So I think there's something else I didn't mention about the story, that when I was a kid, I was very passionate about art and crafts. And after that thing with dropshipping and building the brand that I'm building right now, I invented the product. And that's a huge part of what made our brand truly different from other e-commerce D2C brands, was that we created a product. We invented something that didn't exist, which is the customizer engraving pen. And that was the beginning of growth. But anyways, I think, so just to mention that small thing, that I invented a product to solve a problem that I had. And also I was very passionate about art and crafts, and that's fueling my new vision for the company that we are rebranding in the near future. And that's something I want to just mention. But talking about growth, I've been thinking about this a lot of times. So there's one thing that I did since the beginning, was having the belief that the 10x mindset, anyone can 10x their company. They just need a different skill set, probably a different mindset, or do something different. There's people that grew the company 10x faster, 10x bigger, 10x more profitable. And that 10x mindset was great. I took it from Grant Cardone's book and his coaching programs. But then I came across another mentor, and he was Patrick Bet-David. He mentors me in planning and executing. So if I were to consolidate in one idea, I think it is dreaming so big that you feel you're being delusional, but then slowly you kind of move that threshold. It's my money threshold when I was dishwashing was $10,000, because I was not making even 10,000, but I could see if I save $10,000 for 6 years, I can go back to Argentina and buy a small apartment. And that was my threshold. And then I said what if I move to 30K a month? What if I move to 100K a month? What if I move to $1 million? And I was no, $1 million, I'm being stupid. My boss is not even making millions. So I was contradicting myself. It's that duality of okay, I'm thinking bigger, but at the same time, I don't want to be delusional. But that thing of thinking, I'm confusing a lot of ideas, but it will make sense in a second, I promise. So thinking so big that it's painful and sticking to it and asking yourself, like sitting down every morning or a few times a week and sitting down and asking like, what will I do if I wanted to do 10x this month or next year? And what will I do if I want to 10x now? And like asking those questions and understanding that sometimes solving the problem just is easier if you look at the problem with a bigger lens. So that's kind of the main thing. And that should be backed by having people that already done it mentor you. Like sometimes hiring these kind of people is not easy. It's not cheap. It's risky probably. And so the way I do it is like I set up very big target. So for this year, when I sit down with my team, I said like, we got to do 36 million. And they were like, you're crazy. I said like, yeah, just imagine 36 million and think like, what should I do to the 36? And like, first reaction is like, no way. Like you're just being delusional. And there's no way it's going to be another year that we don't hit the goals. And I'm like, just sit down and think. And next week someone comes and say like, hey, if we want to do 36 million, we need like 20 more products and we need this and that. And so like, okay, what do we need to do if we want to launch 25 products? Oh, we need to hire an expert in supply chain and control of the China thing. We need to hire a legal advisor. We need to do this and that. And I said like, well, and what else? And we need to rebrand. We need the survey. We need like a lot of things. So then after that, I sit down with my team and say like, yeah, let's do 25. And I think actually we might fall a little bit short on that goal, but it's still like 400% than last year. So I'm still happy. And the problem I'm kind of I'm trying to solve right now is like, we're too ambitious on the goal setting, but then people probably in the middle of that, they get confused and they lose a little bit of motivation. But on the fundamentals for owners, I think like just setting a high target and believing you can do it, and then start to think, how can I do it? Because if you start thinking you growing 10% is fine, then you will grow 10%. That's just if you think growing 20% this year is fine, you will not take any action to grow 300% unless you're lucky and you hit something extremely rare. But I'm intentionally crafting my life and my plans to just go massive. And sometimes it has a price, and it comes like with a lot of like down times and down problems and stress and busyness. But at the same time, it is so easy. I don't know if you read the book 10x is easier than 2x, but it talks about like, if you see the problem with a 10x mentality, it is often easier to solve than just trying to duplicate your company. If you want to increase 20%, it's like you need to work 20% more. And that's how you do it. And you add more stress. But in my case, I say like, even if I want 10x this year, I cannot work 10x more. Like there's no way. So I have to get rid of that idea and find another way to kind of like leverage other things.
Yeah, I love that. My original question was like, tell me about your Facebook strategy or your meta strategy or whatever it was, and you completely gave me an answer that I think is actually way more applicable for a lot of people and more interesting. What you mentioned in that whole and everything you just said there, you talked mostly about your work, but you also talked about personally, like you're trying to 10x things on your personal side as well. What are some of the things you're trying to like exponentially level up in your personal life?
Well, that's a very good question. So right now at this time, I am very kind of like, I don't like conflict. So I sweeten things up. So my communication, I'm trying to 10x my communication skills and just trying to be tougher on people and just be direct and tell the truth and not be shy and not be afraid of like doing that to other people. But actually like everything personally goes on the side of business. So I need to probably re-question that to myself. But like when I said I want to build a bigger brand with more impact, then I sit down and say like, if I want to build a company that has $1 billion in annual revenue in 10 years, then like I need to start doing something better for the world. And I need to start listening to people. I need to start giving. I need to start like thinking on how to build a brand that brings value to the community and to like a lot of things. So then I use that to kind of like 10x my personal impact in all of that. But at this time, I kind of like going with the flow of the company. But in the past, it was like, I need to 10x my English. So I woke up every morning, practice English, and listen to podcasts every single day, all days, until I learn English. And I did the same with copywriting. I read all the books on copywriting and sit down and say, like, I need to 10x my D2C skills. And I should stop 20 courses and all the books and all the mentorships. And I practice and I got better. And I did that with the guitar. I play guitar. I did that with guitar at 12 years old. So I don't know. I'm kind of obsessive at some point.
Yeah. No, it's amazing, man. It's super inspirational. I'd love to have you dive a little bit more into mentorship. You touched on this already. I know in kind of the case study you wrote up in the forums, which was fantastic. By the way, we'll link up to it. If you're a member, you can check it out. You mentioned that you were really fanatically good at paying sometimes exorbitant rates for mentorship. And that's been a huge unlock and a hack for you. Can you talk about a couple of the times, or at least, maybe even just one, a very high leverage moment of mentorship where you sought that out, who you sought out, where you found them, and the impact that had on your business, and maybe any tips for anyone who is not doing this as well as you, which is probably all of us?
Whoa. So for me, it's like so weird that a person does not take in mentorship. Like for me, it's so natural that when I speak to my cousin, he's opened a supermarket. I say like, just go online, find the top 5 supermarket owners and offer money to get an hour. And that's just natural for me. So let me think, because I had so many mentorships that changed my brand and my life that I don't have one to say like, oh, this one was like a big unlock. But I remember one talking to Moise Ali on mentorpass.com or some like platform. And I was asking him questions about like media buying strategy, and we are unprofitable now, or like blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, show me your numbers. Or like, what was your revenue yesterday? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, no, wait. Like, you should know your numbers. Like every single day, you should read your data. He just give me like a hit in my face before the reality hit me. So if I weren't to have that mentorship, I will have gone 6 months more losing money. And then the reality will have hit me like, okay, I need to fire people. I run out of money. I also had mentors that didn't work. So I've kind of like developed an idea of how to select mentors.
Okay. And when you reach out, and a lot of times you'll pay for mentorship, MentorPass, I'm guessing, is one. Any other great places where you just go for a fast and easy, let's pay for advice kind of thing?
Yeah. So I think for new people new to mentorship, there's a platform called Growth Mentor where you can pay a quarterly fee and you get unlimited calls. And that's kind of like easier to get into the idea of mentorship. But I often go like either after reading a book, or finding a YouTube video of someone that is interesting, I just try to find them. And these people often easy to find. So like you read a book from Robin Sharma, you like what he said. You go to his website and he offers probably coaching or courses. So you can kind of go through that. And sometimes I kind of like get the cheapest option, test it out, see if it works, and then go for the top tier, like the tier option, like the top more expensive. But it depends. And if I want to simplify and clarify how I look at mentorship for people listening, it will be like I find topics I need to get better at depending on the season. For example, right now we are rebranding, so it's branding. So I try to find resources to learn rebranding, like in YouTube, books, and contacts. Online, I search like a rebranding mentor and start looking at that. And then I spend money on that. And it's just easy, solves all my problems and unlocks like a next level quickly. And yeah, that's it.
I'm smiling about the rebranding. Does the rebranding have anything to do with what your name means in Spanish? Because I mean, I'm not, don't know Spanish. I was doing some research on how to pronounce it. Asked one of our team members in Mexico City. I was like, "Hey, can you help me pronounce this last name?" And this website name. She starts cracking up. She's like, "Is that really their name?" So for those not, I mentioned it at the top, but yeah, slightly risque name for those in the know. Does it have anything to do with the rebranding process you're going through?
Yes and no. Like, I mean, the name started as a joke. And I didn't know it will take off. And I didn't know it was going to be my last company, like the big company I wanted to build. And I was just playing around. But the rebranding is more about the brand identity, because so far we've been a D2C kind of soulless brand that doesn't have a real vision for it. And now we are crafting the whole new thing. And we just found a better name for what we're doing.
We're going through a big rebrand. We're in the kind of the first quarter of a big rebranding process. We found a branding agency that we really loved, hired them. They started to do a bunch of interviews with our team and with members. And I've always been suspect of big rebranding projects, especially if you bring in kind of like expensive agencies to do it. But it's been one of the most fun things I have done in business in years, because you're thinking about your business, you're thinking about what you really care about, what you want to do in the world. Oftentimes we're so close to our babies that you can't really, see the value that you're communicating clearly. Anyway, I've been having a lot of fun with it. So I'm curious, are you doing it in-house? Do you have an agency helping you? Have you been enjoying it as much as I have?
It's been a tough ride. So I'm enjoying it, but I'm hating it at the same time. So I thought rebranding was changing the logo and the name, and that was it. And then I discovered that we did need to do surveys, understand the customers more, and get more clear on the vision and the purpose of the brand. And it goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and it never stops. So we hired a design agency. They were like, for me, it was like the magical solution to all my problems. They will come in, do surveys with my entire team, and interview me, help me to get clarity, and then come back with a one-shot proposal for the brand: name, logo, colors, style, brand voice, and a lot of things. So we did all the interviews, we did all the process. And the first part was great, like the concept for the brand, the brand voice, the ideas, like everything was aligned with what was in my mind. And I was so happy. And when they showed the graphics and the name, it was the most awful thing that I ever saw. Like the most, you cannot believe how bad it was.
What was the name? I mean, you got to tell us that. What was the name they proposed that I'm guessing you're not going with?
The name was Culiau, and you cannot spell it. And they say like, oh yeah, but we send a message to some Americans, and they will say like Culiau. And I was like, no, that's exactly what I want to get rid of. Like people not knowing how to pronounce my name. That's like the number one thing I need you to solve for me. And no, but like the design was bad. It took a lot of time. Yeah.
Oh man. So are you in the second project? It sounds it's such an all or nothing stake like that, because if you're the owner, you're going to be, I think the process we're going through, we get a couple, it's a little more iterative, right? Like they give you like 2 or 3 ideas and some proposals, and you work your way down that path. So is that kind of how you're adjusting and pivoting on that? Are they hopefully coming back with something better than a bad knockoff of Crayola?
No. Right now I gave up on that. So I gave up on them. So I'm going to tell you the story now. But first, like when they proposed that idea to me, I was coming from a trial rebranding. We tried to rebrand in-house, and we failed at that rebranding. I started to learn when I got more involved after looking at the awful thing, and slowly getting more involved, I learned that like it really needs to come from a core of the company, of the brand, of the people, the customers, and the vision, and all of those things. So I got involved. Now I'm doing it myself with my team, based on the foundations of like, of course, the agency. And we're using a consultant that was working with like Lamborghini, Audi, and other big brands, like doing that brand feeling and design and coaching me. So he's a mentor, and that's how I'm running it now.
That's cool. When we went through, and obviously maybe we're still very early in the process, but the way we went through picking the agency was probably looked at 12 different agencies and looked at the brands. You can look at their portfolio just like a graphic designer, but I didn't have to find, obviously different brands had different personalities. So I wasn't looking for things that I liked. I didn't have to love their whole portfolio. I didn't even have to like most of their portfolio. But if I couldn't find one brand that I thought had an interesting voice, was in a style I enjoyed and that I thought stood out in a unique and fascinating way, I just scrapped them and said nope. And that cut the brand list down from 12 to maybe 3 or 4. And then I had interviews with 4, had got 2 proposals and went with 1. But yeah, for me, it was pretty easy because I don't know about you, but as an entrepreneur and just from my personality, I tend to know what I like very quickly. And so it was kind of fun chopping through and seeing, but it's harder to find than I expected. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that was a problem. I had so many things in my mind. I was trying to craft a 10-year vision while solving the problems of Q4 that we grew massively in Q4, ran out of stock, a lot of like big problems all over the place. And I just didn't pay a lot of attention to the agency selection, even though we interviewed like 12 agencies and the same thing. But I didn't have clarity up until like a few months back now. I didn't have clarity of what I wanted, like exactly how it will look. I didn't imagine that. I just had the concept in my brain, but I didn't have the like clarity of how it will look like and what was my like feeling idea of the brand.
I want to ask you about, so I just got done with our quarterly reviews for our team and looking over kind of like, some people call them OKRs, some people call them KPIs, but like the numbers that you measure your team on. And been doing some rejiggering of how we're evaluating, team performance and individual member performance on a quarterly basis, and was just reminded this last week how hard it is to pick good numbers to hold people accountable to, because it's just anyone listening will know what I'm talking about. Anyway, you had mentioned along your journey, you went from like 0 to 35 people in like 3 years, and you have mentioned that like you tried to implement OKRs and it did not work. So I'd love to hear from your experience, like, why didn't they work? It's probably the easier part you don't have to spend as much time on, but like what I'm more curious about is what did you do instead? How did you say, are you still using them and you just realize they're very imperfect? Did you go to a different system? Because I think that's a pain point for any kind of good intentional leader.
Great question. So I didn't have any management experience before building the company. So I think that's the reason why a lot of things were trial and error and testing and doing different things. We grew too fast with junior people. So that was a problem because it was me. Like the first times we set OKRs, it was me setting the OKRs for the entire team. And I remember Q2 2023 last year, and we had 260 goals in total, like mixing OKRs and key results. And we were like 30 people, so complex. And so that's why it failed. So then I said like, okay, this is not working. Let's simplify. And the problem was that I didn't have a system that kind of like hangs across the whole, like that is implemented across the entire company, that is well connected and useful. We are sticking with EOS from Traction, and we modified a few things from that, but it's just simpler, like 3 to 5 rocks per person max. But like why the OKRs failed, it was like lack of experience from my side, lack of experience from my team, and lack of planning. We didn't have like a year plan or like a 2 years plan. It was like very handmade in the moment. So 21 struggling with that, I will say like start with EOS. I was delusional putting 260 OKRs and pretending my team will follow. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
260 is for 30 people. That's a lot. That is a mouthful. But yeah, I mean, makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of us fall prey to the same thing. It's that you want to measure as much as you can and like be as nuanced and detailed as you can, but sometimes you get killed by the level of detail. I also want to ask on the management side of things. You have said in some of your posts, you said management systems take about 20% of your working time, and that if you have a group of 10 employees versus 15, it really isn't that different in terms of the productivity and the output that you have. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Sure. So I experienced something when growing, and it's like going through different levels, and I see everything as a level. And so level 1, it's like you're by yourself and everything is like just working. And the more time you can spend working, the most efficient you are and the most things you get out. And then at some point you start adding people, and it's all about delegating. So the more you delegate, the better you delegate, the more results you have, and there's the productivity of your people, and you start managing them. And then you need managers to manage people. And that's the time when like 10 people will probably produce the same or similar outcome of like maybe 12, 13, 15. Because once, of course, like if you're adding like a superstar manager, it will produce more results. But if you take your people, which is what most people do the first time they get a manager, they say like, oh, this person is a great video editor and we need another one. Why don't we hire another video editor and this person is going to be the manager of the new one? And so that sounds like great. You duplicate the output of video editing. That's quote unquote, because it's just to see it that way. You have one video editor, you do 10 videos. You have two, you don't do 20, because the second one of them needs to lead the other one, needs to plan, there's communication between them that just delays the whole thing. And there's like more complexity arise. And that's just like from a book. I don't know if that was Growing Pains or another book. It says like about 20% of your, like it just generates, management systems generate like 20% like overhead work. And overhead work, I don't know if that's the term, but like just that's it. And then you grow more, and at some point I reached like 20 people, and that's when I needed manager of managers and like actually more director level kind of people, even though it's not director, but like solid managers that report to me. And they lead sometimes individual contributors or managers of other people. And that's get more complex, because if you do what I did, which was like promoting everyone internally and developing talent and hiring junior people, which worked, but was painful in some aspects. And like then you get a manager that is not really a senior manager leading another manager that is not a senior manager leading people. So don't do that. I did that. That loses more than 20%. But like in a normal sense, normal situation, just like be aware that if you have one customer support agent and you add a second, it's probably not going to be like twice as much the outputs. And sometimes it is. So it depends on the people. If you hire a better person, and if, I don't know, it really depends. But in general terms, like when you are 10 people, if you're at that stage, like 8 people, 10 people, growing to 15 to maybe 20, you know there's a valley there. You got to go through that valley. You need to learn how to manage people. In the past, you didn't need like deep one-on-ones, because you just talk to people, delegate things, catch up, build a small culture. Then when you have 20 people, 15 people, there's a starts to be like a gap between you and the team. It's not a big gap, but like it requires more communication systems, culture, and things that just waste your time. And you start, it's not wasting, but it is like not productive in the output sense. And then, but that management system, once you create it, it doesn't scale. Like it's not that you are more people and it becomes less efficient. The more people you add and the better people you add, it becomes more efficient. But at the time of switching from no management systems to management systems, it just consumes time.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. From a hiring leaders and managers perspective, which you've had to do, what have you learned about doing that? And especially maybe like middle managers. I mean, there's hiring like a COO or a CEO. Those are entirely different ballparks. And we could do an entire episode series on each one of those. But let's say middle management, like let's say if you have someone that's overseeing your creative department or someone who's overseeing those kind of a step up from the individual contributor levels. How are you screening for those people hiring? Are you looking for just past experience? What are the couple things you're really trying to hone in on to make sure you get a good hire?
So actually, I'm learning about that, because in the past, we were just creating the managers in the company and just training the people and trying to find people as relentless and energetic as I am, and just giving them mentorship and courses and mentorship and books. And so, but that was the way we were doing it in the past. But now we are screening. I mean, we built a great culture and we have great benefits in the company. So people like and want to work with us. And we get so many people attracted by the reason that we are remote and we are flexible with a lot of things. We give them mentorships. We give them bonuses. We make them part of the company in some part, like in the impact they generate. So, but in the tactical sense, if you want the answer of like, what do you do to find these people? It's like building scorecards, job description, goals, and like setting up the clarity of what person you need, and then screening for any, like I screen for any skill that can relate. So it doesn't need to be the exact experience. But for example, I recently hired an ops manager, and something that caught my attention was that when she was explaining to me, I said like, what was your, like the thing you're most proud of in your last work? And she's like, I won a prize to go to the Russia World Cup because of a project. I was like, tell me about it. And there was like 100 participants in a big corporation, and she won the prize as a young, like not really senior employee. So I started digging deeper, and I find these patterns. Like, I mean, when a person is an A player, it shows up. Like it shows up in past experiences. It shows up in their family. Like you find the person that had a kid when she, let's say right now, I hire a person, she had a kid when she was 18 years old, and she managed that. She moved by herself. She went to college, and she got a nice job, and she also did like great things. So it's like, when someone is a player, he's a player of the game. Like you can smell that from past experiences. So what I screen for is those kind of signals that tell me, okay, this person is into something, and is like, there's something about this person that makes the person remarkable. And besides that is, some past experience, and like really willing to learn. And the person should be excited about having to read books, having to take mentorships. The person should be excited about like learning new things and being challenged and being in like a super changing environment and getting like the limits pushed all the time. And that's kind of like what I screen for. But it's all very dependent on my culture and the company.
Yeah. We got to start wrapping up, unfortunately. If you have not been to his website, Culiau is the newly rebranded site, Cryo, right?
No,
I know. I'm just totally messing with you. It's Culiau. Am I pronouncing that right? Culiau?
No, like Culiau. Yeah. If we were saying in Spanish, it's like Culiau, and it's like Culi. I don't know even how to spell it in English. Oh shit. Yeah. Culiau, Culiau, and like Americans cannot pronounce iau. I don't know why. But
Culiau. Yeah, I was even with coaching from Mariela on my team, who's a native Spanish speaker. I still butchered it, but we'll link up to it in the show notes if you can't pronounce it either, and you can check it out. There's a ton of very cool engraving pens, other supplies, a really neat brand. And then one thing too, I don't know, I'm going to give this shout out, especially if people are in the forums. I know, is there anything that you kind of need help with, or you'd love to connect with people on? I know one thing you'd mentioned in the past was maybe sourcing and developing products and kits in China at the highest quality possible. So if that's you, you know that, and you'd be willing to help and or get in touch with Santiago, you can reach out to him in the forums. Anything else that you'd love to kind of just put out a general kind of bat signal for things you'd love to connect with people on or help you'd love with?
I would love to talk about PR and like just getting viral and communicating the new brand vision and purpose.
Awesome. So if that's you, if that's your jam, reach out, start chatting with Santiago in the community. So last name is spelled, so it's Santiago, his first name, of course. And can you spell your last name for people so they can look it up in the forums?
Roa. We'll say Roa with that R in Spanish, but like Santiago Roa in English, Roa.
If Annie, my wife, is ever having a bad day and she needs a pick me up, she asks me to try to roll a Spanish R, and she'll lose it for about 10 minutes. So I'll spare everyone because it's ugly. I want to do a quick lightning round with you before we wrap up. What's one of the fondest memories from your childhood? And these can be just super fast, quick answers, but.
Well, those questions are so tough for me. I don't know. I just kind of like live so fast that I don't remember things. But one quick memory is like me selling. It's not fun, but it was meaningful for me. It's like me selling drawings to my grandfather, and he was buying me. And I was feeling that I was scamming him. I was like painting some cars on a paper and putting a price on a notebook. And so like this one is $2. Like this one has glitter on it. So it's $5. Like you probably gotta buy this one. She's like, yeah, give me this one. I was like, I'm feeling scamming someone, but besides that, I played a lot of music, and at some point it was like 4 a.m. in the morning. I was playing my guitar, like just unplugged to the amplifier, just playing and practicing. And I received a Facebook message from someone. It said like, do you play guitar? I was like, yeah, I do. Why? He's like, I got a famous musician from like Argentinian TV that is coming to our town, and his band had a problem, and we need someone to play. Like we need a guitar, we need a piano, we need like all the instruments. And he was going live on TV next day, like 9 a.m. in the morning. I was like, it's 4 a.m. What are you talking? He's like, you're online. You play guitar, it seems. So I got my guitar, went to a random place. The guy came, and he was like in a super good mood. And I was like so worried I didn't even know the songs. And he's like, don't worry. You just plug the cable, throw it out, and they will record some boats and some nice place. It's going to be like some Caribbean music. And I was there playing guitar. I was 16 years old. And after that, he's like, why don't we build a band? Because my band had a problem. They're not going to come anyways. So I say, why don't we build a band? And I was 16 years old. And he took me to dance clubs, like all of the weirdest places. I was playing guitar at 5 a.m. in the morning in a dance club. And even it was not the music I like to play, but it was fun. So that's one thing I remember, like that really was a fun time.
That's awesome. That's a great story. It pays to be up that later early playing guitar. What's the hardest part of your business? You could, a lot of difficult parts, but if you had to say one of the hardest parts, what would it be?
Right now or hardest times?
Hardest right now. So like day in, day out, what's the hardest part of your business on an ongoing basis?
I think I'm not a great manager. So the hardest part for me is to like keep track of one-on-ones, notes, the rocks, the goals, the systems, the numbers. I'm more of a visionary, and I like to think in marketing and product, but I'm forced onto like a very solving any problem. Like it's no matter what. So that's the hardest part for me. I don't even look at finances. I don't even know what amount of money do we have in the bank account. Like I don't like that, but I definitely need to do that. So that's the hardest part for me.
Yeah. How many hours a week do you work?
I think I'm working like 40. So like 8 hours a day, but I spend like 2 hours a day. So if you call like work, it's probably 12 hours a day, like thinking and developing myself, like really sitting down in the computer working is only 8 hours. But then I read in the morning, I do my mindset, I kind of brainstorm things, and then I listen to some podcasts or debrief at the evening. So it's kind of like thinking and kind of like working in my mind is 12 hours a day, but like really working and sitting down to do work, maybe 8 hours or sometimes less.
Got it. The most infamous question in this section, how much money in the bank is enough? And you can answer either one of two ways. You can either say a lump sum of money, we'll go in US dollars, in the bank, or an annual amount that you're going to make for the rest of your life that comes in monthly. And by enough, I mean like if you'd never had any more money, you feel like you could live a good, great, full life on this amount of money. Not that you can't make more in the future, but if this is all you ever made, you'd be okay with it.
I'll be okay with 10K a month. That'll make me okay in terms of money, even less. If I need it, I will need to re-accommodate my life if that happens. But like for me, it's not about money. So if I say like, if I put my targets in money, I'll say like until 5 million, 10 million a month, I'll not slow down at all. And I mean, profits, not really revenue. So, I mean, I got a long time to go, but I'll probably adjust my goal when I get there. But what I need, like I can live off 1K a month if I wanted to. Now having a baby, maybe 2, but let's say 10K. 10K is enough.
Those babies are expensive.
Yeah.
Take a lot of food and diapers. Santiago, this has been so fun. Thank you. It was, I mentioned this at the top, but it was such a pleasure having you at ECF Live this year. getting to hear your story, having you join the group. It's your story and your path is pretty phenomenal. I don't know if you can objectively see it from where you are, but like going internationally, not speaking English, teaching yourself English, working hard, coming back, starting a business, coming back to Argentina, the mindset shifts that you've had and being able to grow to, having a $25 million business at 25 years old. It's pretty cool, man. So congrats on the success. I have no doubt you're going to continue to see it in the future. And yeah, man, just so glad to have you part of the community. Appreciate you coming on to talk through this. This was a blast and very excited to see what you do in the future.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for building such a great community. Like, it's just so different than any other online community. So I love it and I'm enjoying being part of that.
Yeah. Thanks, man.